Welcome back to SL Chennai Speaks Out. Employment bonds, entrapment or discipline? Public punch, so to you.
I have a point to make, drawing the analogy between a marriage and a relationship. So once the employee wants to leave, any kind of a bond is like a very tedious divorce proceeding. Second, that if an employee wants to leave, and the question of poaching. So any kind of poaching happens, especially with my generation, I can generalize and say it's not about the brand or the money, it's more about the quality of work that I'm interested in. And thirdly, what is the cost of keeping an employee who's not really interested in working in terms of metrics such as productivity or utilization in a client-facing service? It doesn't really work.
Assume that you belong to what is called as the Gen Ys or what is called as the millennials, which are all people born after 1979. And I think a lot of good companies have strategies to deal and engage with Gen Ys. Of kind of giving them meaningful work, giving them opportunities to do work with NGOs, give them micro feedback.
If an employee is motivated today, tomorrow he expects a pay rise. And if that pay rise doesn't come from this organization, he goes to another organization just for that minimal of pay rise. So how do these abstract terminologies like loyalty, motivation convert into actual productivity and retention?
Why don't you have something like a retention bonus, which I'm glad so many companies are putting that. I'm saying you stay for 2 years, I'm going to pay you a retention bonus. Isn't that a positive way of retaining a person than by saying you sign a bond and you got to pay up something for me, right?
Bonuses are there after 2 or 3 years, but initially, I mean, like Nina said, after 6 months they start producing or they start giving back to the organization.
Fair
now
enough.
From there on, the factors that you spoke of, loyalty, motivation, keeping them inside, I am asking for specific strategies. How do you motivate
I can
individuals?
give you, align the company's goal with the individual goals. Treat employees as partners, have good managers, involve people in decision making, give them, good incentive structures, have a good training program, have some kind of a good career growth.
I
can talk
about
so
pay
many.
them more. Pay them more. You said they don't come for the money, but pay them more.
No, it's not about pay. Yeah, minimum pay required. I agree. I'm not saying that pay is not important, but if you are telling me pay is the only component which a person leaves a job, I disagree.
All right, pay. Let's put it in this order: pay, love, fresh air, and Facebook. All right.
I have a question to Joshua, sir. Sir, my question is like a company which do not have a bond. How can they get an experienced manager, and how can they build up a team spirit within a company?
That's very simple. It doesn't matter. You can get good people provided you are able to position your company as a good brand. And as a matter of fact, I'm glad that most of the companies today don't insist on a bond. They insist on something like a notice period.
In the government sector, they're following a bond, right? So like you told, like is there in government sector there is no layoff? Like there is no recession in the government sector. That's 100% job security is there.
In the government sector.
I think what I said was most of the practices we follow in the private sector. Typically, if you study the management history, there are few bodies or from institutions we have followed the practices. In the Western world, it is army, it is the church, and it is a government. In India, since we know it is essentially army, so I did not say whatever government do, I'm not kind of comparing. I'm essentially saying there are practices which we follow because private sector is relatively new compared to an army which have been there for centuries, or the government, if you look at the British civil service or whatever, they've been there for maybe, I don't know, about 150 years plus. I'm essentially saying there are analogies, there are parallels. So it is not that whatever, I'm not making, you have to just take those practices and transplant here. That's not what I meant.
All right, and in Tamil Nadu, don't forget that more than 1 lakh employees were sacked.
There's job security in what you said, but who's looking at job satisfaction in that sector as well?
Absolutely. Correct? If you choose to work for a government, you get something, you lose something. Okay, like the trade-off is, you kind of follow a time-bound promotions, and you kind of take orders from people who you think they're not good, whatever it is. So it's all about trade-offs. In private sector, it's meritocracy which counts, and if you're good, you can accelerate.
I have been shared the complete JD when I hired. See, after a couple of months later, they do performance appraisal and everything based on the GD provided to you.
See, I'll give you some definitions of job descriptions. I mean, you should listen to this. You know, if a company says, I need a quick learner, it means that we don't have a training department. You know, we have no time to train you. You know, I need a quick learner. And if the company says, I need a candidate who is deadline oriented, it means that you're 6 months behind schedule on the very first day. You know, that's deadline oriented. And some kind of overtime required, the candidate should be willing to stretch. It means all your weekends have gone for a 6. You better, you know, sit down and you do. And lastly, you know, I should
Can't even come and attend Chennai Speaks Out. That's a pity.
And last, you know, get me a candidate with a wide variety of experience simply means that you get a guy who can replace 3 people in my company who have quit. You know, that's what job description today means. Unfortunately, that's the truth.
I worked for a company called UST Global. There was no bond. I worked there for around 12 months. And even now, I quit the job and I'm doing my master's now. But again, if you ask me after my completion of my post-graduation, I would rejoin the company.
Brilliant.
Nowadays, companies talk about nature of psychological contract. Okay, it's just not only the contract, which is the paper contract. They also talk about psychological contract between an employer and an employee. All the things that you meant. You know, my relationship with my supervisor. You know, am I heard in the company? Is my views taken? Is my feedback taken?
Why is commitment measured on a signature? Why can't commitment be more humane, like how you said? You know, why is commitment to a signature?
To get back to Sanjay's marriage and other family analogies, Leo Tolstoy once said, all happy families are alike, but each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. So it's not a question of a bond. Some people leave because of bonds, but the bond is a way that gets them out of the company or stops them from getting out. It could be a bad manager, it could be distance, it could be pay packet. People leave for different reasons. But as of yesterday's news, attrition in Indian companies has risen to double figures because recession is over, people are job hopping for better pay packets.
The bottom, the companies think there is an investment they are making. The top level, they think the guys have access to critical data, and by joining competitors, they will severely compromise the overall health of the company.
Whatever job description says, when we hit the floor, the way we work is completely different from what we have in mind. So if an employee finds out after 1 month down the line of training that he doesn't really like it at all, and he comes home and then kicks his pillow, wakes up, and then comes to the job, and is it really value addition?
Employee also badmouths. He or she is not going to keep his mouth quiet. He's going to tell the whole world how bad the company is.
After that.
You know?
And keeping them, such a person is a team member, and is also demotivating to the team.
If you've been sent by your parents for tennis classes, dancing classes, you probably hated it for the first 3 months, 6 months, 3 years or whatever it is, and then you understood what it was all about. I'm saying understand for, you know, the period that you're there, take time to understand yourself, because very often people don't understand their own potential or what their own talents are. It's only when you sit and work.
Good companies actually provide a realistic job preview so that the potential employee has an opportunity to really have a discussion and to make the decision.
And singing classes, what our parents send, okay, it's completely unconditional love. But when it comes to companies, it's not the same.
When your parents do it that way, say, go for those classes.
Yeah,
Tough love.
Parents are always, they show unconditional love to us, and it is not the same with the companies. And I work for 2 companies, one without a bond and one with a bond, and I broke the bond. When I worked for the company for the
Did they take you to court?
No, sir, they didn't. Actually, I served the notice period, and then I had to come. There was another kind of.
Did they give you the relieving letter?
No.
All right.
You learn from the resume that I've been hopping from company to company. I've been playing musical chair. Will you ever recruit me first of all?
What we are talking about is don't make an employee, don't force an employee to stay. Let the employee stay, even retire in an organization.
Enough, yeah.
But
Joseph was telling about the credit card signature and signing their credit card. There is a difference between signing a credit card, then there is a myth actually, because we don't realize that we lose the money, but here you don't realize we earn the money. But I don't mind struggling myself for a year or 2 in order to look for a good future rather than losing the money in the short term.
All the money you earned, you pay it back because you have a
bond.
bond.
No, it's only when you...
Suppose if a guy joins a company, signing a bond for 2 years, and if he finds insecurity in his job within 6 months, and brings loss to the company, not doing to his best. So what is the director decision, whether to throw him out or to keep him in the company and incur the loss?
I think, organizations have performance management systems. Companies talk about KRAs, KPIs. These are all essentially to see how the person is performing as per the standards set. So different organizations have different methodologies. So as per their standards, they will take a view on it. See, there is no global answers for this.
Any experienced person is also having the bond. So he's having a monthly target of 1.5 lakhs. If he's paid for at least for 2 lakhs annual salary. So he's not performing means 1 month or 2 months. He's been, company will let it go. But the third month, if he's not, or he or she's not able to get the target, achieve the target of 1.5 lakh per month, it's pretty well for 4 times of his salary. So he's automatically lay off. So what is the use of signing a bond in that case?
If it is an exploitative bond, I would follow Joshua's advice, break it. But if it is a transparent, above board bond, go for it.
But his point is there are no such things as fair bonds, and a fair bond is an oxymoron. Yes.
Absolutely.
Final question to you, ma'am. Yes.
Absolutely.
Final question. Yes.
Yeah, my question is to Mr. Balaji. As Mr. Balaji said, the bond is for, as everyone knows, right, it's only for a period of 2 years or less than that. If a guy has to leave or reveal the tactics or the strategies of the company, anyways, obviously he's going to leave the company after 2 years. Even after that, he can go and reveal it, or he can go and talk about it to other people. So it doesn't make a difference, right?
Yeah. See, I think the reason companies have these clauses, 2 years or whatever it is, because you are not going to pass on cutting edge information. You're not going to pass on real time information. Even at the senior level, when you leave the company, they say after 2 years, after 3 years, you can free to do whatever you want to do, because you're not going to pass on information which is absolutely critical, because information has a time value. If you get an information after 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, it doesn't have that kind of a significance. So that's the reason for the time.
If we can put this to vote, show of hands, how many of you believe that we should award this debate to Joshua Samuel and Venkat Subramanian, who said that bonds are a sign of entrapment? Show of hands.
Wow, that's great, yeah.
So is that okay? How many of you believe that we should award this debate to Balaji and Neena, who say that, all right, you still have some votes there. Okay, it's not that bad, all right, it's not that bad. But then again, as I always say, that this is just, it all depends on the audience present here in the studio, present and voting, as they say, usually when it comes to Cephology. So we'll have to award this debate. This house, ladies and gentlemen, this house believes that bonds are a sign of entrapment. And we'll award this debate to Joshua and to Venkat Subramanian. But having said that, despite the verdict, perhaps it's about time that employers don't behave like bosses, but behave like role models. And employees should also ensure that there's a sizable gap between the time when they say I do and the time when they bid adieu. Thank you very much for watching SL Chennai Speaks Out on Employment Bonds. Do send us feedback, email us to feedback@ndtv-hindu.com. From all of us on the team here, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next week at the same time.